Ladies and gentlemen, it has literally happened again. But this time, someone else played. This time, it was Daniel Barrish, our own FM actually, but he's playing board 1 for our Olympiad team. He took down a GM as well. He said, "Whoa, Jan Karsten, if you can do it, I can also do it." Literally 2 rounds later, he said, "Hold my beer, I've got this." And I'm here today to show you this spectacular game. If you want to go and dive deeper into the game, the link is in the description. Otherwise, just come enjoy the little putzer journey with me and try and understand the game as well as I do, because this game is a bit way beyond me. But this was a brilliant game, brilliant end game, so stick around for that. And middle game expertise displayed by Daniel Barrish. Well done to him, very proud of him, and hopefully we get to see more of this. I said that 2 days ago, but I really wouldn't mind to see more South Africans take down GMs. So, come along for the ride. It's really a bumpy one, but fun. Actually, it's not such a bumpy ride, now that I think about it. Barrish actually controlled the game from the beginning to the end. They played a Queen's Gambit, declined. Black didn't take the pawn on c4, and played a6. The GM plays a6. So he's basically saying, listen, you can take my pawn on the middle of the board, but I've always got this b5 move, and I've got some counterplay on the queen side that you need to be worried about. And I'm controlling that side of the board. Barrish goes for a setup that looks a bit like the London system, where you take this bishop out and put it on the king side and play the e3 pawn then, and then this bishop doesn't decide to trade the dark squared bishop, decides to pin that knight. And this is really where there's an interesting part of the game unfolding here. It's actually a game between these 2 bishops and keeping tension in the middle game. Or so far as I understand it, that's what it is. So first off, this bishop decides not to trade. He's sitting on g5, just pinning this knight. And black castles, and as you can feel, they both are relatively still comfortable in the opening. Nothing crazy has happened just yet. Queen c2, Barrish is playing a very flawless, developing chess game, and what I like about his setup is that he can always still move this e4 pawn up the board. He can still push it when he wants to and have the central break and play a more open type of game of chess. Even though he started with d4, his options are very flexible and this is useful to him later on. So at this moment, Black says, okay, you know what, this pin of yours is annoying. So I've played bishop e6, I wanted to trade, but let's bring my bishop back and let's get out of this pin somehow. Barrish says, okay, I'm just going to develop a bit. Nothing's really happening. h3, let's make a flight square for my king. And maybe I want to push g4 later on. I want to keep this knight out. So it's a flexible move. Has got more than one purpose, and it's kind of waiting as well to see what is Black coming up with. Black does the usual maneuver, brings the knight to f8. That knight's coming to g6. And now Barrish plays an interesting move. I don't really know these systems, but he brings the bishop back to f4. And I would think that it's got something to do with, obviously, you're anticipating knight g6, but maybe h3 makes more sense now. Maybe you want to put the bishop back all the way to h2, or something like that. And maybe he was just anticipating that if his bishop was caught on, let's say he made a different waiting move, if his bishop was caught on g5, then he wouldn't be able to escape, retreat this bishop out, and he might have to do a bishop for a knight type of exchange in this game, something that he strategically might not want to do against the GM. So that's why h3 was a nice move, and then bishop f4. But then after knight g6, he plays rook e1, and I'm like, that's interesting. I thought all of this was about extracting the bishop, but no, you're actually happy with giving up the bishop now, but having this huge square on e5 for your knight or any other piece, and then you can build your attack with this open file. So then I thought, okay, Barrish is here, he's playing an aggressive game. And he's not worried about this whole bishop-pair debate. He actually wants to go for the throat. He wants the file. He wants the huge square on e5. And that's what he's going for. And now for the second time a trade is offered of these dark squared bishops. Grandmaster Supi decides bishop e6. Come, it's time we get rid of this bishop. You need to move it. And Barrish says, you know what? I will move it. I'm going to go back to where I was. I quite liked pinning your knight. And the GM says, okay, you know what? Going back to e7 with my bishop now concedes defeat. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to develop another bishop. I'm going to develop that light squared one. You clearly don't want anything to do with my dark squared bishop, and you like yours way more than I like mine. And finally, we get at this e4. So this is what I'm talking about, this e4 break, this nice central play of Barrish. But still, everything's nicely developed, very clean, smooth start, and he hits the first punch in the center of the board with e4. It gets traded, and now you start to kind of feel this pin. The pin starts to feel alive. So black goes back, bishop e7. And here, Barrish plays a really clever forward move. He goes knight c5. And this is clever for two regards, because it kind of forces black to trade down this bishop that just moved back for the knight. Because this knight's really annoying here. You don't want it trading for your light squared knight. This will basically force you to maybe lose a pawn. So if you allow this, let's say for instance, if you allow this, you'll probably most likely lose a pawn on this square. So you really can't be doing that. So he says, listen, that tension is enough. Get rid of that knight. And then I just want to kick away your bishop. Please, bishop, go to hell. I don't want to see you anymore. I'm playing h6. Go away. And Barrish says, well, if you really want my bishop to go away, take it. And the GM says, oh, well, don't mind me if I do. I'll take the bishop. And it's at this moment in the game that I thought, yes, he's finding the critical moves. He's not just playing a strategic slow game. He's actually finding the moves while they're there. If you miss your shot with the GM, it's game over. Unfortunately, he did not miss that shot. He played bishop takes h6, and then I started sharing this game around. I'm like, guys, come check this out. He's playing a great game of chess. And bishop takes, and now, for those that are wondering why doesn't the GM just recapture the bishop, like you're just completely destroyed if you do. On the one hand, if you go to h8, I can give this check as well, and then I can just pick up your bishop. I'm up 3 pawns, thank you very much. And on the other hand, if you run to this side of the board, I can still give you a check, and if the king runs away, look at this one. Mate in 1. Just appreciate this mate for a second with me. I'll do a little twirl so that we can appreciate it. This is such a nice mate, because it feels like the black king's got so many defenders, and there's only 2 attackers really doing the work. Until you realize there's actually this pawn that's also doing some of the checkmating work. I like this checkmate so much. I think the GM, he spots all of this obviously, and he plays the right move, bishop d5, not trading down. And now Barrish needs to extract this bishop, which is a complicated process. And it needs to start with rook takes e8 check. The thing is, so you can probably move your bishop away, but now bishop takes f3 is a problem. And you'd like to solve that problem through playing queen c3 forking the 2 minor pieces. So you'd like to solve the problem of the double pawns, because you don't want to go g takes f3 and then have this exposed king. But unfortunately, this doesn't fork anything at the moment because the queen is on e8. However, if you start off with rook takes e8 check, the queen needs to move. And now you can play bishop f5, and if bishop takes f3, you can fork the pieces, and both the knight and the bishop are hanging, and you can solve your pawn structure in that way. And Barrish goes for something similar to this. He goes for rook takes, queen takes, and then just queen c3 immediately, protecting the piece, hitting another piece. And here the GM would have been well off if he just decided to take the bishop and go for this type of endgame, where he's down a pawn when he's got the bishop. Like, this would have been the GM's best solve for the position. But he makes his life much more worse. He goes knight e4, allowing bishop takes, and then this following tempo move as well, rook e1. By the way, you can't even recapture this bishop with your bishop, because white just plays rook e1, and this is ridiculously bad for black. You need to get out of the pin with f5. White can just pile up on this piece, and you're probably losing another pawn as well. Your king is still exposed. So this is why this knight move is so critically bad, because you need to recapture with a queen, and now white brings his rook in with tempo as well. And after queen g6, white has got this follow-up move, which Barrish unfortunately doesn't play, but he's got knight h4, hitting the queen another time. And if you don't want to trade queens and go for the endgame through queen g7, you need to go queen g5. And this allows the following problem, rook e3. And even if you do take my knight, this check is so devastating that you need to give up your queen and play this really easy endgame for white. And why do I say this endgame is easy? Well, basically, the king is so exposed, the black king, that you can just keep on checking in, keep on picking up pawns, start pushing your own pawns. This is the kind of brain dead endgame. I think there's not much to do here for black. But Barrish misses this shot slightly, but I think he's already got like a setup in his mind. He's already got this slow structural game that he wants to follow. He plays a6, just getting this pawn out of harm's way from black's bishop. And he's ready to go for the endgame. He spots the following setup. And by the way, this is why the GM plays this move so quickly. King h7, he's like, whoa, 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 just let's get the king out of this g file. Like, I don't want to get mated. Or I don't want my king to get skewered to my queen to get skewered to my king. So he's just like, let's get out of here, guys. So knight h4 now, but it's a move slower. So now you can't play rook e3 because your knight's just hanging. But he's got the setup in mind. As I said, he's ready for the endgame, putting his pawns on dark squares, g3, queen checks, and a lot of these queen checks are kind of just there to get to time control, but black is kind of forced to just go back and forth with the king. Anything else is not an improvement for him. And he follows off the queen checks with rook e5, bringing the queen into the game through queen e3. And you'll see we're at move 38 now, so even the way he was using the queen checks was very strategic. It was a great way of getting to out of this time trouble that the GM might try to impose on him. Okay, so finally we're in this position, and he remaneuvers the knight to f4. So this was the setup he had in mind all along. And this is so nice because this knight is unopposed. Can't really be hit by any one of the pawns. So white's structure is just so lacquered. And black threatens a mate in one that you actually really just need to stop. Don't allow rook h1, so just take. And you're winning this endgame. I just want to commend him before running through the endgame slightly quickly. He did a really great job here, but he did reach time control, so I feel like the proper work was done up until this point. But we can still look at how he converts this game. So the nice thing about his position at the moment is he can attack black and keep this attack going. The tension doesn't release, and he can pick up pawns while he's attacking black, and black's position just can never improve. So here he offers a queen trade, which black probably should have taken. And if black doesn't want to go for this endgame pawn down, then his position is just much worse. As we see, black takes the pawn and now it just crumbles because this black king is so exposed, and white's king is so safe on this light square. There's no coordination in between the black pieces to even create anything. So black's queen needs to fall back, get another check, and this queen is just avoiding the trade, because if you've got such a nice attack going, why do you want to trade and go for an endgame? And here, I think the nice thing is, as I said, his attack is still rolling. There's still so many threats, and while he is executing this attack, he's still picking up pawns. Like the d5 pawn just fell off the board. The a4 pawn just fell off the board. By the way, he played queen d4. Obviously, the threat is to pin the queen, but he's also just picking up this pawn on a4. It's like, okay, give it to me. And the queen can fall back into the game with g4. So he does, he is clever here, Barrish, not to take the rook, I think, and go for this endgame where, like, he's still winning, right? But there's just this small feeling that maybe black can get a perpetual. So Barrish would rather go into a rook endgame than a queen endgame. So there's lots of ways to do it. He hits f7 again, and here he can obviously, this is a tactic also to go into a queen endgame, and the Grandmaster might have played on for a bit if they'd done this, because he might have felt like there's this perpetual idea. But in the end, Barrish picks up this pawn, and the Grandmaster says, yo, this is a lot of pawns. Like, I'm counting them, that's, like, you're humiliating me now. It's 3 pawns, 2 of which are, like, outside passed pawns. Like, can you get this game over with? Like, give me back a pawn. And Barrish says, alright, like, pick up my pawn. It's fine, I'm just gonna, like, mate in 2. Like, how do you feel about that? And the Grandmaster says, no, let's just trade on queens. And then the Grandmaster's like, you know what? I won back a pawn, but I'm going to resign in this position, because like, you've played such a solid game. This is an outside pass pawn. There's nothing for me to play for here. There's no tricks, nothing. I respect you enough. We've been playing for, gosh, how many hours? I think this game was like also close to 6 hours, close to the time Jan Karsten's game was as well. So Grandmaster Soupy resigns, Daniel Barrish with the win, very proud of him. And well, I'm going to say it again, because hopefully you guys challenge me and beat GMs, because then I should be covering it. I will cover it. That is a promise. That's the least I can do, is share the beautiful games you have been playing at the Olympiad. Well done to the South African team. I think last round was really close. I don't know when we came so close to coming close to even beating Brazil, but it was close, and at least to a draw. But this was just insane. Well done, Daniel. Well done, Jan again. Well done, everyone that's participating. I can really see the level of chess in this country growing, and it's super exciting. Like it.